Alright guys, what is up? And today I'm coming at you with a deck profile on it. Kind of just more or less really fun deck to kind of play around with like your friends and stuff, or like take the locals or things like that. But basically it's a trap monster deck. For those of you who don't know what trap monsters are, they're basically like continuous traps that have effects where they basically kind of summon themselves as monsters while also taking up a space in your back row. Some of them have really cool effects. But yeah, like I said, this deck's a lot of fun to play. It can make some really neat combos and setups and things like that. Not really something you kind of take like a big event like a regional or a YCS or something like that just to kind of top with. But more or less just like a fun deck, like to say play with your friends casually or like take to locals or something like that. But yeah, this deck's mainly traps, so a lot of people, if you do bring up this deck, they're going to joke about, oh, if your opponent summons Jinzo or activates Royal Decree, you might as well scoop. Granted, this deck does have outs to it, but if you don't get it within like the next turn or two of them activating that, you might as well scoop, just because they absolutely like shut this deck down. But needless to say, don't let that deter you from playing a deck, or this deck really. Just because your deck loses to a floodgate doesn't mean you shouldn't play that deck. It's just not about what the deck can't do under a floodgate, but it's what the deck can do like on its own. But yeah, this deck's a whole lot of fun, makes some really neat combos and things like that. But yeah, going into the traps, kind of the meat and potatoes of the deck. 3 stone statue of anguish pattern. I just call it the spider statue. Basically what this one does, you activate it and it becomes a rock, level 7, 0 attack, 2500 defense. And then basically whenever you activate a trap monster, you get to pop a card on the field, which is pretty cool. So if you activate this as your hired chain link with like a back row full of like a bunch of trap monsters, you can like summon this. Since it's the hired chain link, it'll resolve first. And then you can activate like 2, 3, or even 4 trap monsters. And then you get to pop that many cards on the field, which is really cool. So this is like kind of the card you want to see as quickly as possible, just because the 2500 booty is really nice. And if you want to, you could play some rank 7s, like you could play like Big Eye or Draco Sack or Master of Blades or Flare Metal Dragon or whoever you want. The extra deck's kind of flexible. The only card, by the way, this is the extra deck. We'll go ahead and get out of the way. It's a Master Key Beetle. Because in this deck, you don't really need an extra deck, but if you want to, you can build one, just kind of have options, just in case you do have the opportunity to make an extra deck and you really need it. But yeah, I just like this because it's basically like Insector Hornet, it clears fields. The next 3, Abyss Dongrae. This one, it summons itself as a light thunder, level 5, 1900 attack and 0 defense, and it can't be destroyed by battle. That's really it. So it's a beater, and your opponent can't run over it and just stuff like that. There's also some fun combos with it I'll get into later. Then next I play 2 Zone of the Spirit. This card's always been kind of fun to play around with. At least in my opinion, because I've played it in like random fun decks. But pretty much what this one does, it becomes a zombie, dark, level 4, 1800 attack, 500 defense. Whenever it's destroyed by battle, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the monster that destroyed it. So you can just kind of set this and then activate it in defense if your opponent's going to attack you directly. Then if they want to run over it, then they're going to take some damage, which is alright, because this deck can stall for a lot, and then that card just kind of helps you advance your game state and get a little more damage on board. The next 2 Tiki Soul and 2 Tiki Curse. These cards work really well hand in hand with each other. This one, it's a light rock, level 4, 1000 attack, 1800 defense. And then its other effect is that whenever a trap monster would be destroyed by your opponent's either battle or card effect, you can set the spell a trap in zone instead. So if you want to, like, if you absolutely have to, because if your stuff goes to the graveyard, it's not that big of a deal, just because there's a couple of different ways to get those cards back. If you like absolutely need that card, this guy's on the field, then you can just reset your trap zone, which is pretty cool. And then Tiki Curse, it's a rock, level 4, 1800 attack, 1000 defense, so it's like the opposite of that one. And then its effect is whenever a trap monster you control is destroyed by opponent's monster by battle, you can destroy that other monster after damage calculations. So this kind of works out really well with, like I said, with Abyss Dongrae. Because granted, you will take battle damage if it's, which obviously it's gonna you're gonna take battle damage just because if this combo only works if the monster has a higher than 1900 attack. You can kind of flip this, crash into the monster while this is on board, and then you can just kind of kill that monster right there, which is kind of neat. Just, again, fun little interactions and combos and things like that. The next 2 copies of Metal Reflect Slime. Sadly, only this one's Ulti and this one's Ultra, but it's still Hollow Metal Reflect Slime. It looks really cool either way. This, you basically summon it, it's a level 10 Aqua, Water, 0 attack, 3000 defense, so it's just a good stall card just because you flip it, you automatically have a 3000 wall, which is kind of annoying to deal with in certain situations, and also the level 10 kind of comes into play with a little setup I'll get into later. The one Cyber Shadow Guarder, this card combos really well with your Spider statue. Because whenever you activate it, it's a level 4 Earth Machine, attack and defense is question mark. And whenever it is selected as an attack target, it gains the attack and defense of the monster it battles. So if your opponent tries to attack it, then it's going to crash. But if you have, like, say, your, what's his name? You have your Tiki Soul on the field. It's this one. They go to attack this, and then Tiki Soul's effect will activate. And you can just reset it in your back row, and then their monster will die, so it's kind of cool. And also, during their end phase, you reset this in your back row, and this is the main reason I like playing this, is because you keep your Spider statue on the field, you can keep flipping this, pop a card, their end phase, reset it, you just kind of keep doing that back and forth until they get rid of one of the two cards. And just kind of slowly peck away at their field, which is kind of neat. Then 2 copies of Imperial Custom. This basically protects your continuous traps. So it makes it to where your continuous traps can't be destroyed, except Imperial Custom, you can only control one, because if you can control more than one, then you can basically lock your opponent out of, like, breaking your board, which is really, really nuts. Also, something else you can play is Safe Zone. I just can't find the room for it, but if you want to, you could try and play around with this build and test it out in there yourself. So if you can kind of sit on this and, like, say your Spider statues and your Shadow Gardeners, then you can have a pretty good field setup, where you can just kind of keep pecking away at their cards, and then have, like, Dongrae to attack for damage and stuff like that. So that's pretty good. The next 2 copies of Fake Trap, neat little old card. A lot of people might remember this from back in the day, coming in the Joey starter deck and Metal Raiders. Just probably haven't really looked at the card just because you really see it, like, going through, like, bulk comments and stuff. You're like, oh, that card's bad. But what this does is your opponent would use a spell, trap, or monster effect to destroy your trap cards. This can be destroyed as a substitute. So, like, say, if they're going to MST one of your back row, and that isn't this, you can flip this and make it as a substitute. Now, if they were to activate, say, like, Twin Twister and pop 2, because something to note is that while your trap monsters are active as monsters, they're still treated as trap cards, so they can still, like, Twin Twister it, or pop it. So if they don't, like, kill one of your guys and you have this in your back row with, like, say, an MST or with a monster effect, you can use this as a substitute instead. Or if you want to keep one of your cards alive whenever they Twin Twister you, then this also really helps. If it could be used as a substitute for all of them, then that'd be really, really good. And then next, kind of, I guess you could say support for this deck that came out of Wing Raiders, is 2 Booby Trap E. This card is really, really good in this deck. It basically gets you instantly to any of your trap monsters that you need at the moment. What it does is you discard a card, then you set a continuous trap from your hand or graveyard to the field, and it can be activated during that turn. So this is one of the cards I was talking about where if your stuff goes to the graveyard, it's no big deal. So you discard a card, and then you set a continuous trap from your hand to the field or your graveyard, and then it can be activated that turn. So you set this, you discard it, you discard your card, you activate it, and then, like, say, if you have the Spider statue on the field, you could be like, oh, I'll bring out a monster, and then you're basically discarding to pop a card, which is really, really cool. So this card's kind of neat, but just, again, a 2-of is really, really nice. Then going on to the spells, 2 Magic Planner, because the majority of this deck's continuous traps, so why not have a Pot of Greed, basically. The next 3 copies of Pot of Duality. Again, you don't really special summon during your turn in this deck at all. You mainly do it during your opponent's turn, or at least during your next turn if they don't have anything. So this card just, again, deck for combo pieces is really, really nice. Then 3 copies of MST. Just, again, if your opponent flips Roll Decree and you don't have your answer to it, which is this, then you might as well scoop. But, like, say, if you can respond to the Roll Decree, then I'm not sure how the interaction would work, but if your opponent activates Roll Decree if it hasn't resolved yet, then you should be able to flip the Spider statue and another trap and pop it, but don't quote me on that. That's just, like, it's honestly never come up, but this is really your main out to Roll Decree. Then 2 copies of Dark Hole, because I don't want to put a red deck in this deck. This deck's just kind of a budget fun deck, so just, again, a generic board wipe's really nice. Then going on to the monsters, of course, since these are continuous traps, you play 2 copies of Uria. Really, really easy to bring on this deck. You send 3 face-up traps to the graveyard, and then it gains 1,000 attack for each continuous trap in your graveyard. And then once per turn, you can target a set spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it, and they can't respond to it. So it's just really good for clearing back row if you want to make sure his attacks go up safely. And plus, like I said, you do have a lot of continuous traps in the deck, so you can get them up to really, really high numbers. The other day I was playtesting a couple of new cards in this deck, and I was playing up against my friend, and he was playing Tunes. And I actually got this guy up to 7,000 attack, which is really, really nutty, so it's pretty cool. Just to have like a nice bead stick, and plus playing a Sacred Beast is fun. The 2 copies of Mask of Darkness, you flip, pick a trap in your graveyard, and return it to your hand, so it's like your Monster Reborn for the deck, basically. The next 2 copies of the Calculator, this is kind of the setup I was talking about earlier with, what's his name? Metal Reflect Slime. For those of you who don't know what the Calculator does, he gains attack equal to the combined levels of all monsters you control times 300, so since he's level 2, he's already at 600, but you activate Metal Reflect Slime. That's a level 10, so he gains 3,000 attack just off of this one card, which is really cool. And if you can keep your field set up and just keep activating trap monsters with high levels, then this guy can be a massive beat stick, which is pretty funny. The next 3 copies of Card D, just again, dig for combo pieces. You can draw into some trap cards and have back row set. And then you can activate his effect, attribute, draw 2, and then that'll be the end phase. And then lastly, just kind of a random little tech card is 1 copy of Lava Golem. Just tribute those problematic boss monsters off the field that, like, say, shut off basically half your deck. Like I said, Jinzo is a really nasty one. Or also Majesty's Fiend, because it's still treated as a monster, so it'd be a monster effect. So this kind of just deals with it. Granted, you could also play Kaijus if you wanted to, just because, again, it tributes those monsters off the field. This guy, I like him just because you can tribute 2. Sit on a 3,000 beat stick, and if they can't deal with it, then they're going to lose 1,000 each turn. And if you can sit on this, and you have a Metal Reflect Slime, then it's really, really annoying because it's 3,000 attack versus 3,000 defense. They can't run over it, so... And you just kind of sit there and burn for game. So it has fun little combos with that. Like I said, the extra deck is 1 copy of Master Key Beetle. You could play, like, say, your Statue of English pattern. You could use those to play level 7s. Stun Rays, you could play level 5s. Obviously, the Zoma, the Tiki Soul, and the Tiki Curse, you could play level 10s. And even if you wanted to, you could play, like, say... You can play, like, Rail Cannon, obviously, if you wanted to, just for the walls, because these are level 10s. This is a level 4. But yeah, those are just kind of like the things you can play. You can play 4s, 5s, and 7s. There's also another card I want to talk about, and that's Shape Sister. It came out of Shadow Specters. It's a trap monster, but it's also a tuner. So if you wanted to, you could play Synchros in there. I forget what level it is, but go look it up. It should be easy to get. It's an ultra rare, like I said, out of Shadow Specters in the 2014 Megaton. So you could, like, say, play that and put some Synchros in your extra deck and kind of play around with that. Another tech card you could also play in here is Starlight Road. Because, again, your opponent's going to probably want to pop all your back row like crazy. So if they activate a Twin Twister, you could just be like, no. And then get a free Stardust Dragon, which is pretty cool. But again, I took that out just because of main deck space. But yeah, this deck's pretty versatile. It's a lot of fun to play. Makes some pretty neat combos. Again, something to just kind of, like, play around with your friends or, like, take the locals and stuff like that. Just because making this guy and popping back row and they're decimating their field's really neat. Also, dropping a Uriah with a lot of attacks, pretty fun. Same with, like, your Calculator setups. But yeah, that's basically it for the deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments section down below of this deck. I might update this later in the future, I might not, because this deck's a lot of fun to play. Not really something I devote a lot of time to, but just something kind of neat to kind of mess around with every once in a while and take a break from, like, playing meta stuff and things like that. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I will catch you guys later.